Hello and welcome to the new edition of Berlin Vision. This webinar is organized by the Vitronic Capital City office in Berlin, in Germany, and Vitronic Dubai. Vitronic Dubai is the Vitronic company responsible for our business in all countries of the Middle East and of Africa. My name is Michael Leindecker, and I'm the director of the Vitronic office in Berlin. The CEO of Vitronic Dubai, Yusuf Al-Ansari, will join us later on in the panel discussion. For those who do not know us yet, a short introduction. Berlin Vision is a series of conferences and webinars. Its goal is to bring together senior experts from traffic technology to identify and discuss new projects and future trends in mobility. The topic we have chosen today is smart traffic, best practice in the Middle East and Europe. The idea behind this topic is to tackle two very important questions. The first question is best practice. And we mean what makes smart traffic projects successful? A very easy question, but a very important question. Who is mostly responsible for the success of the project? This is what we would like to understand better. The government, the private contractor, the expert, consultants, or the technology. The second aspect we want to tackle today is the aspect of innovation. What are the most relevant future trends today in traffic and mobility in the Middle East and in Europe? Is it, who everybody's talking about, the sustainability of the transport sector, including the CO2 challenge, or is it the optimization of the flow of traffic, or more ambitious, the introduction of automated driving? We think everybody is facing the same challenges and the same topics, but maybe we have different answers in the different countries and we have different priorities. I'm very curious to hear the opinions of our expert speakers today, and I'm looking forward to the discussion. With this, I would like to hand over to Zeina Nazar, our moderator. Zeina, please.
Thank you, Michael. Good afternoon and welcome to Smart Traffic, Best Practice in the Middle East and Europe. My name is Zeina Nazar, and I'm a co-founder of Cities Forum and doctoral researcher at the University of Southampton, focusing on emerging technologies and how they can affect smart cities. I will be your moderator today. I'm based in Southampton, and I'm thrilled to be your moderator today. We have very exciting list of speakers from different backgrounds from around the world. Due to COVID, Europe and the Middle East region have seen some mega trends of technologies transforming the car industry. While cars will always remain the main mode of transport, we will see that there are some mega trends, including autonomous vehicles, electric vehicles, shared, on-demand, and co-modal, including cycling, e-scooters, and other modes of transport. We have seen a major shift in traveler behavior. There is an amazing opportunity for government and policymakers to take advantage of this shift and to reduce the dependencies of cars and help with climate change. The rise of public or personal mobility was accelerated by COVID-19 for users. Given the low level of investment required and flexibility of these solutions, it will be easier for cities to rapidly repurpose streets and public spaces to expand their capacity. Autonomous vehicles are a long-term trend. In the short term, we see the largest sub-trend identified in autonomous vehicle as a demand for moving things rather than moving people, and also focusing on the last mile. When it comes to electric vehicles, all factors accounted for, COVID-19 should have a moderate accelerative effect on this trend, although constrained by local policies, incentives, and geographical consideration. The impact of COVID-19 on sharing cars in the short term is significant, as volumes of users of ride-hailing and car-sharing services have fallen across the world. In this case, trust is the main factor, and as long as trust starts increasing among the users, the trend may recover. When it comes to mobility as a service in the long term, this is the future of transportation. We have seen a rise of virtual presence accelerated by COVID-19. Many workers have gotten used to the new way of life. I call it the new reality. I now would like to introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Atif Gharib from Abu Dhabi. Dr. Atif is the CEO of Tatweer Middle East and Africa. He is a transportation engineer professional with over 32 years of industrial and academical experience. Dr. Gharib occupied strategic positions in transportation industries in the Middle East. Dr. Gharib is providing a highly experienced mix of diverse professionals and innovative technologies to deliver sustainable, cutting-edge solutions to all clients. Tatweer's key service domain are professional engineering services, innovation and communication technology, and smart system solution. He is also a senior road expert in road safety. Dr. Gharib will present to us the evolution of a technology-based traffic safety management framework to address Abu Dhabi road safety challenges. Dr. Gharib, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Zena, for the nice introduction, and sorry for unmuting before I start. And I'd like, before I start, to thank Vitronic for such very promising and very nice initiative of organizing such seminars, and for choosing me to be part of such fantastic opportunities. Before I start, I'd like to take you back a few years back. I moved. It happens that I moved from Abu Dhabi municipality to Abu Dhabi police. At this time, the government were trying in 2009, the government were trying to reform the political agenda and the economic plan. They looked at all sectors and they defined targets and priorities across all sectors. Of course, as many other countries, they define security and justice and safety to be on top of the political agenda. When they looked at this, they looked at the different target and different goal inside security and justice, and they found that collision fatalities have been increased during the 3 years before 2009, before the end of 2009, which is 2007, 2008, 2009, by 12%. So recognizing the importance of this to save life, they put making roads safer on top of their agenda and one of the most important goals. And they define target for each public organization related to road safety, and they asked them to adapt such target and to satisfy such target and build plans and framework to reach so. Abu Dhabi Police at this time has been assigned with a target to reduce road fatality by 4% and road serious injuries by 4%. I have been assigned as a team leader to tackle such subject and to find a way to satisfy such very tough target, not easy at all. We reviewed best practice around the world. We did like benchmarking. We looked around and evaluate our current situation, and we defined the challenges we are facing. And we grouped them. There were many challenges that caused such deterioration in road safety and increase in the rising rate on fatalities. The first group, we put it population. Whoever familiar with the Gulf region, he will know that the population is very diversified. Diversity, we have people from 180 countries. Everyone has his own background, has his own behavior, has his own habits, and he comes with this. So, and it takes time for him to get into the system. So this was one of the major challenges, is to get all these people with different language adapted to a system to improve road safety. The second item in the population is that we have a young population. We have most of the people, 88%, less than 45 years old. And this, this age has a tendency to move and travel, and this will cause problem in congestion, in accident, and so on. So when we think of a system, we have to take care of such challenges. The second part was road network. We looked at the road network. Maybe most of you knows that the road network in Dubai and in Abu Dhabi, one of the most advanced road network around the world. It's open road, was designed with a very high standard, with many multi-lane in each direction. So it encouraged driver to speed up. So this is also, being good sometimes put challenge on you. We looked at the third category, which is vehicles and the human behavior. We found that the vehicle population is mostly new, very powerful, and very advanced. So this also with a high road standard encourage people to fly and to travel with high speed, which will cause a major issue with fatalities. Also, we looked at the behavior, the human behavior. We found very aggressive young drivers with many negative driving behavior, texting, smartphone use, speeding, not using seat belt, and so on. Also, we looked at many other challenges like weather, like different issue, and we start, evaluating best practice, looking at benchmarking, looking at the challenges, trying to come with a plan. We decided to go with a plan, a long-term plan, as we will see, that consists of 3 main steps. First step, we have to satisfy the target of the government. The government put a target on us to reduce fatality and serious injury by 40%, by 4% every year. And this is not enough by itself, because the government put on themselves a target to be among the best leading government in the world. So to be very, very advanced. Okay. So we decided to go with a long-term target, okay, to satisfy the 4% yearly and try to reach 0 fatalities by the year 2030. So this, we started end of 09 and beginning of 2010. So reaching 0, this means we need to reduce fatality by 5% yearly almost. As you could see here, the fatality rate was going up, as we could see, and our target to take it from here to here, or we dream to be here. I know it's not easy, but at least to be close to this area. Knowing this and defining our target, we thought about how could we do this. So we came up with the idea that we need to develop a system to manage the implementation of such things. So we decided that we will develop a system, we call it Intelligent Traffic Safety Management System, ITSMS, which will allow enhanced data management system, define countermeasure and continuous monitoring and evaluation. The system will have embedded, it's a GIS-based system, artificial intelligence-based system. It will gather all data and convert it to a GIS-based data where all could be related to each other. All data related, not only the crash data, but the traffic data, the road asset condition data, the socioeconomic data, and so on, and the driver registration to be able to do the required analysis. Then the system also will be equipped with a comprehensive GIS-based crash data analysis system where all this could be correlated, trend could be defined, and all the different analysis approach, we have been doing it in a standalone. Once the analysis is done, the system has a layer, an artificial intelligence and machine layer, which define the causes, which define what happened, what caused the accident, and choose a countermeasures from a predefined countermeasures through an expert opinion predefined. We had like experts from around the world. We sat together and we defined the countermeasure in 5 different directions: enforcement, education, engineering, emergency response, engagement. And also, this will have an artificial intelligent capability which will be able to qualify, or evaluate the impact of the countermeasure, the improvement that it take place because of this countermeasure. So in the future, it will better judge the countermeasure to be chosen. So this was the second step. The third step is to apply the tool to implement integrated approach to road safety, and which we called it 6 E's plus double I. 6 E's is enforcement, education, engineering, emergency response, evaluation, and engagement. Okay, and the 2 I, one for integration, because those measures, if it did not work together, it could cause problems. So we had to assure that those measures, the measure under each one of them, could work together. And it has intelligent part, the AI part, and the pattern recognition part, and all of this, and a prediction part as well, as we will see. Knowing this, when we developed this kind of thought, we asked ourselves how to implement this. Could it be in-house, the government do it? Could it be the 3C model of implementation, client, consultant, contractor? Could it be a government-owned company? We evaluated everything, and we put the pros and cons of each, and at the end, we came up to, it's better because it required different experience and different knowledge. You need people from traffic engineering and traffic safety background, from programming background, from AI background, from smart solution background. So you need a lot of people. So it's very difficult to have them in-house in the government. So we recommended establishing an organization that comes from road and traffic safety industry, but it offers unique blend between professional engineering services and innovative technology. So we need all of them together. This, I had been assigned as a founder CEO of Tatweel to establish this. This was, back in 2010, early 2011. So we established it in a way to have the 3 types of services. The whole services is like a triangle with 3 equal sides, where we have the consultant and design and R&D are here. We have the system development and the software development and the system integration here. And we have the smart technology implementation here. And the heart of the triangle depends on heavily on big data and AI. And of course, we left part of learning from Apple, nothing perfect in the world. So we left part of the triangle empty. I know it could be copyright for Apple, but we know that nothing perfect. Everything will have pros and cons. So we left it this way. So this is how we thought of implementing the framework. And based on this, we started working on the framework. We didn't have the technology part yet. So we start putting countermeasures that are very traditional countermeasure, all of us familiar with in enforcement and in education and in engineering, like safety audit, speed management, building bridges, and so on, and emergency response and engagement, where we engage the society with us, and we kept the team, the professional team kept, doing a study, evaluating, try to be as much as we can proactive instead of being reactive. And we were waiting for the 2 I's to get in and to be more advanced in those parts. We started this, as we will see later on, the results were getting better. Then we mentioned we have to be, to introduce technology heavily, because keeping track of all these things could be difficult. Getting better results more than this could be very difficult. So we started to introduce the technology in all of them, and through the very comprehensive integration part. Here I will select some of the projects that we used. It's mainly technology-based project to reach where we have reached. I will share with you. It's an experience, and I think it could be a very good case study to be transferred to different parts of the world. So it's not all the project, but it's a selected, very selective projects. This is, you could say the whole thing, the master slide, if I could see. So we decided that we need devices to get data and to communicate with drivers. And we need all these devices as much as we can to be connected to a hub, a center, where all the data is there, where analysis is being taken place, and to utilize the ITSMS in analysis and putting the required countermeasure and the evaluation as well. So we started with putting speed camera. We were trying to get quick results. And we all know enforcement brings you a quick result in improving road safety. Education will give you the long-term results, but enforcement will get you in very quickly. So we started with an enforcement system. We have chosen, we have evaluated what we have. And based on this, we came up with a number, as you will see. And the speed camera we have chosen, it could provide us with point speed control, with average speed control, with tailgating, so it could enforce all these type of issues. So how we came to the number and how we define the location, because technology is good, but if you use it in the right place, it will be very good. If you use it in the wrong place, it will be useless, as we see. We looked at the crash data. We looked at, we had all the crash data in the GIS, we looked at it. Then we translate this to what we call risk link. Every 5 kilometers, there is, we calculate the risk based on the crash severity, and we came up with a risk link. Then we used to have some speed camera. We plot those speed camera. And based on a very detailed criteria, we define, based on the risk links criteria as well, we define where to install speed camera. This was the first part, and this part, it's related to E of enforcement. It provides us with violation, with traffic data, and with the speed data. So we were feeding the center with all these type of data. It's not only for violation, but we're getting traffic information and speed information as well. The second hardware we used, we defined we need to communicate with the driver. We could communicate via mobile app, but we are trying to encourage people not to use the mobile. We could communicate with radio. So we define that the importance of installing what we call smart towers. It's a gantry equipped with many things, including VMS, where we could put a message to the driver to reduce speed, or we could change the speed and announce it for the driver. It has two CCTV camera, which have an instant detection capabilities, and it could give us a video stream of the road if there is congestion, if there is anything, and send it back to the center, as we will see. It has a power source. It has ANPR, where we could use it for B2B or section control, and we could define the wanted cars if we need. It has a scanner for traffic volume. It has a fixed speed camera for a point speed detection, and it has a weather station, or that where we could measure visibility and all of these things, because based on this, in the back office, in the center, in the hub, we evaluate everything and we reduce speed as required and announce it to the traveler and reduce the enforcement speed. And based on this, we could control the speed on the road as the visibility allow. This tower, those towers, the 45 ones, provide us with traffic collision data, police patrol data, live broadcasts of the surveillance camera, visibility data, congestion data. All this is being fed to the Safe City Center, as we will, or the hub we will talk about, and it allows us to issue different type of violation: dangerous tailgating, tailgating is the distance between cars, and we need to always to keep safe distance. And mobile phone seats through the CCTV camera, we could detect, we build a model to detect the driver and to enforce the mobile use and the seat belt. We could define through the ANPR the wanted car and the average speed. Plus, we introduce something, we don't want to leave people to commit an accident and then act after fact. We define a logic to define what we call dangerous violators. So he's doing violations, but he has a potential to do an accident. So we define a logic.
Have 2 more minutes.
Okay. And many others subsystem like smart patrol, where we could get all the speed data and everything. Patrol color location, which is the emergency response to assure that the cars or patrol cars could reach on time, and many other subsystems that fit into the 6Es plus I. Plus, of course, the center where all data comes, analysis is being done, processed. There is the decision support system there. There is SOPs where operator can define exactly or can choose exactly what he has to do. And the government takes this further to what we call a safe city index, where we are able to calculate safety index for each and every spot in Abu Dhabi. Plus the ITSMS where every data comes, analysis being done, we define exactly, we clean the data, the historical data, and we assure that the data coming clean in the future, and we could do spot analysis, area-wide analysis, link analysis, and so on. Okay, and based on this, we looked at the performance yearly, in a yearly base. You could see that the coalition, we succeed from 2010 to 2020 to reduce fatality by 58%. We were targeting 50%, so we reduced it 58%, and pedestrian fatality by 75%, and severe injury, we were targeting 50%, we reached 76%. In summary, to summarize this, we were going this way in fatality. And because we were doing reactive mode, we are, we wait until the problem happens, then we try to find a solution. We developed in 2010 or end of 29, we developed the framework and we put our target. Then we start implementing all what I have talked about. We looked at the actual result, we found it's going this way, but we reached a stage where this was the maximum. So the year after, it has been increased as you go. So we were going down, then all of a sudden we found that we have reached the maximum. And this stage, we were adapting 6Es plus I, plus integration. So we introduced heavily the intelligence part after this year. And based on this, we have reached this results. You could see it's a huge drop in fatality. It's a very well-planned framework, and we succeed so far to satisfy the target. And by the way, anything under this line is much better than the target we are looking for. So we went down from 409 end of 2009, 409 fatalities, till 157 fatality end of 2020. By this, I'm done with my presentation, and I will be happy if there is any question.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gharib. We say in Arabic, mashallah. I think you've been keeping yourself very busy in Abu Dhabi. You're doing a great job. I would like to remind our audience that there will be panel discussion after all the speakers are finished. So we have received a lot of questions for you, Dr. Gharib, but we will save the questions for later. I just have one question for you. And my question is Abu Dhabi ready to be a smart city?
It's a very good question, and I think it is in its way to be a smart city. They are done with the safety and security infrastructure for a smart city, and they have the Safe City Center. So this part is ready. They are working hard for the civil application, and there are projects for smart irrigation system, for to upgrade the infrastructure to smart systems, smart irrigation, smart stormwater, smart lighting. Actually, we are in Tatweer working on those 3 projects with the municipalities. They formed a committee for the smart cities. There is a lot of talk about hospitals and hotels and to have all-in-one mobility. There is some project going on for mobility as a services. So there is a lot of activity in Abu Dhabi in this direction. And I believe it's in the right direction, and they will be ready for to be a smart city very soon.
Excellent, very good. I also would like to inform our audience that we will be producing a white paper following this event, and it will be basically submitted to whoever is interested in April. So with that, I would like to thank you, Dr. Atif Gharib, for a fantastic presentation to tell us what's going on in Abu Dhabi. So please stay with us because we're going to have you later in the panel discussion. And now I would like to present our second speaker, Mr. Robert Yan. Robert is the managing director and partner of RAP Trans office in Berlin. RAP Trans, they have offices in Switzerland and in Germany. So we're going to hear now from Europe. Robert has worked as a consultant for international companies for over 25 years. And Robert worked for 20 years in the field of intelligent transport systems as technical project manager for contract award procedures for the installation of nationwide toll systems in 7 countries. Toll systems is very dear to my heart, the topic. In the last 5 years, the focus of Robert's work was on mobility policies and the research in particular on automated and connected driving and sustainable mobility in cities. Robert will be presenting to us automated public transport on key for sustainable smart cities, and he will tell us examples on how we could manage the transformation. Robert, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sinja. Dear ladies and gentlemen, dear Michael, first I want to thank Victronic and Michael Leindecker for the opportunity to give a talk in this webinar. It is a great honor for me to share my thoughts and my ideas about the fundamental transformation of mobility in European cities with all of you. Knowing that we have many listeners from the Middle East, I would like to emphasize that my presentation displays exclusively a European perspective regarding the transformation of mobility in cities. To start with, I think it is helpful to get a common understanding about what most people are thinking when they read or talk about smart cities or smart mobility. Therefore, I did what we are doing today nowadays. I did a Google research for smart cities and for smart mobility, and these have been my results. Everything seems to be linked to each other. The terms that come with this picture are technology, investment, automated, connected, fast, flexible, shared, on demand, easy, green, change of life, and a lot of more. It is the picture of a modern, futuristic world full of fancy technology. But I have the impression at the same time that the image of smart cities created by powerful companies is more of the same. A lot of traffic, congestion, and noise and air pollution. It seems that the drawn picture is an advertisement for fancy digital products. However, I think, and I'm quite sure, that digitalization should be part of an intelligent/sustainable urban development policy. But what is a smart city? Smart/intelligent municipalities have a good understanding of the needs of their people. In these cities, digital technologies are applied in a way that people are supported in the fulfillment of their needs. Municipalities create frameworks in which new opportunities are developed, and environmental protection is not a conflict with progress, but is the propelling force for a better life within or in our communities. Which are now the main mobility challenges in the transformation to a smart city which a mayor has to face? Let me have a look into some statistics. Passenger cars are in Europe still the main form of transport. 62% of CO2 emissions of road transport are caused by cars or motorcycles. The number of passenger cars is still growing, and with it the volume of traffic and of course the emissions. The EU average passenger car density is 51 cars per 100 inhabitants. 82% of the total passenger transport in Europe is performed by cars, and this is a huge amount. And if we want to go for the transformation of our mobility system, then we have strongly to work on this part. Greta Thunberg has motivated millions of children and youngsters in Europe to demonstrate for the protection of climate. The climate change is pushing the discussions about mobility in Europe on the level of communities and cities. Mobility is the area in which the level of CO2 emissions is still growing. At the same time, people of metropolises are fed up with bad air and noise of constant car traffic in their city. The people want public space where they can meet and spend time, where children can play and so on. This became particularly clear in the past year of COVID-19, and it is still going on. They all are looking forward towards a better quality of life in their neighborhood. And people want to go out on the street, meet each other and have a good time there. So even though the number of cars is still growing, the trend of a more sustainable lifestyle becomes visible. It is now necessary to find the right solution for the transformation of our mobility system. Is there a chance that new technologies could solve these issues? And we can hear it every day in the newspapers, in the television, in the internet. There are a lot of fancy technologies, and there is a little bit a story of everything will solve our issues. And yes, I think it's possible to have this change or the solutions as well with the technologies. But municipalities have to take responsibility and leadership within this transformation process. Technologies can help us to solve these issues if policymakers and the public have a clear picture of their future sustainable lifestyle or life in their city and therewith of the mobility. If already existing or in near future existing digital technologies like automated driving are applied to support this transformation process, if public authorities, planners, and at least we all, will learn that mobility is not the same as transport. Mobility is, in my understanding, an ecosystem which includes the space, the infrastructure, the means of transport, regulations, and most important, the daily needs of people. So it's not necessary to go to work. It could be as well that you work at home and the data are coming back to you. So the needs are the important question. And last but not least, if European societies, we all are accepting that it will not work without changing our mobility behavior. And in this play or in this game, what is the role of municipalities in the transition to smart cities? Municipalities are the drivers of the fundamental transformation of our mobility system in Europe. The EU and national programs are providing the financial resources, the vision, the policies, the infrastructural, economic and regulatory frameworks are put into place by municipalities. Under these conditions, companies and especially family business like Vitronic provide innovative technological solutions and new services which support this transformation process. They will create new investment and business models involving local communities. And I think that's important, that it's not only seen on the national or international level, but as well it is necessary also for the investment that local communities are invested into these changes. To start with a project in a city of such a scale, municipalities need a lot of courage and optimism, that's for sure. However, it is worth for everybody to do it. It is impossible to enter new territory without making mistakes. Therefore, it is recommended to engage multidisciplinary, and we have already learned from ATF, that it's very important that we have not only experts of one side, so multidisciplinary experts which provide knowledge and state-of-the-art methods with respect to data analytics and agent-based modeling, planning, participation procedures, and so on. For example, for the implementation of automated public transport, usually applied planning standards cannot be used and new planning procedures must be developed. I'm sure that the communication of visions, policies, and already started city transformation projects will help the municipalities to make their risks and to manage their risks and to start their own projects. It is necessary to tell stories which provide the confidence that it is worth to invest a high effort into this change process for the grace of climate protection and a better life. Now I would like to show you some examples of cities which have done a big step in the direction of a smart city and a smart mobility ecosystem. I will bring you two examples, one from Spain, one from France, and one example from Germany. Superblocks in Barcelona. I think a lot of people could learned already something about it, but I want to mention it. The simple idea is based on the bigger blocks that are smaller in size than the district itself. These new 400 meter times 400 meter urban blocks have given the city back to the citizens by keeping car traffic on the outskirts of each block. And I think this increases the life quality of the people within the block. This urban development creates a peaceful, more spacious inner area, perfect for cycling and walking, as well as testing new uses that encourage social cohesion and economic development. A recent study carried out by the Barcelona Institute of Global Health estimates that if, as planned, 503 potential superblocks are implemented across the city, journeys by private vehicles would fall by 230,000 a week. As people switch to public transport, walking or cycling, less NOx and more active mobility is increasing public health. The next example comes from Paris. It's the 50-minute city which was presented and is on the way to be implemented by Paris Mayor Anne Hidalgo. The idea goes back to the vision of Sorbonne Professor Carlos Moreno, suggesting the creation of neighborhoods whose residents can be sure to reach work and all amenities from their homes within 15 minutes by bike or walk. It is expected the car trips will be reduced strongly for the benefit of a better air quality, less greenhouse gas emissions and less noise, and more public space for cycling and walking. Automated public transport across and around the neighborhoods will support this transformation. And the last example, it's the example of Kiezblocks. A Kiez is in Germany or some areas of Germany, a neighborhood. And Kiezblocks are the German, or better, the Berlin version and interpretation of Barcelona's superblocks. Kiezblocks are mixed-use areas within a neighborhood block for cyclists, walkers, and people who want to revive the street space. Only residents and neighbors are allowed to drive within a Kiezblock. I would like to summarize my ideas within 5 theses. 1. Climate change, air pollution, and constant high traffic in cities are driving the need of the change and the transformation of mobility in cities. 2. Municipalities are the propelling force of the transformation. 3. Mobility is an ecosystem and much more than transport. And only if we understand the full picture, so we have a holistic view on mobility, that means especially the needs of city residents, we can take the right decisions. 4, the digital technologies like automated driving are not an end in themselves. They must support the transformation into a sustainable, that means an accessible for everybody, CO2 neutral and financial reasonable mobility ecosystem. And 5, smaller companies and family business are the champions of this change. At the end of my presentation, I'd like to quote Jan Gehl, the famous city planner of Copenhagen. We recognize that if people are walking and cycling more, you have a more lively, more safe, more sustainable and healthier city. And what are we waiting for? Thank you all for your attention, and I'm curious for your questions.
Robert, thank you so much. Especially I like the last quotation from Jan Gehl about what are we waiting for. Fantastic presentation. Thank you very much for giving us a good and nice overview of what's happening in Europe. And it would be nice to see what's going on in Europe and compare to the Middle East. I have a question for you, Robert. And again, we're getting a lot of interesting questions for you, but we will save them all for the panel discussion at the end. But I do have a quick question for you, Robert, about autonomous vehicle and what level are we today and where do you think we're going? What are your views about the autonomous vehicle development and what level are we today?
Thank you very much, Senja, for this question. But first, I have to apologize why I have not spoken much about public autonomous transport. The reason is because the time was too short. What we have to face is that automatic driving will be integrated in a different city as we know it today. And this was important for me to show before how could the city look like, and then about the autonomous vehicles. To come back to your question, I think we will see public transport quite soon in the next few years as a level 4 public autonomous or automated transport. Why public transport? Because legislation will start with automatic driving under specific conditions. And for example, with a central control center. And this is only possible not for private users, but it's possible for public transport. And I see a big chance and opportunity with public automated driving that they could support the transformation as well of our cities, especially for smaller cities, to have a reasonable price for the public transport in a high quality. That means high frequency, so every 5 to 10 minutes, and locally accessible, so nearby to your place.
Wonderful. Robert, thank you so much. And I would like our audience to stay tuned with us to listen to Robert during the panel discussion with the other panelists. And also, I would like to remind you all that we'll be producing a white paper following this event. And now I would like to present our third speaker for today, Dr. Khalid Abdelazim Abbas. Dr. Khalid is a professor of transport planning and traffic engineering at National Institute of Transport in Egypt. Dr. Khalid has over 30 years of experience in consulting and academia. He is a former expert for the CEO office at the Public Transport Authority, in Dubai, Dubai RTA. He is the former Dean of Egypt National Institute of Transport. He's the former chairman of River Transport Authority. He worked as technical principal at SMEC Australia. He's a Fulbright alumni at the University of Texas at Austin. He's also my alma mater. Dr. Khalid is currently the visiting professor at the University of Suffolk. So, Dr. Khalid, you will be telling us about mobility beyond sustainability and towards maturity. Dr. Khalid, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the good opportunity to be part of this webinar. I thank Vetronic for doing this, especially in this difficult times where we all need to come together and listen to each other. I chose the topic as mobility beyond sustainability and towards maturity. Now, this topic, I have been working in it for some time recently. Basically, most of the ideas are extracted from my recent book that I tried also to publish during the COVID crisis, because, you know, at these times, it's better to do some homework of all the things that you have been missing in your life, like writing textbooks and authoring books. First of all, I would like to mention the classical definition of sustainability of having three corners: economic, social, and environmental, and in the middle, safety and security. And that has been developed by the World Bank since 1996. And this is the sustainability aspects of the transport sector as well, that everyone is still talking about it until now, since 1996. So it's a very long time. It's about a quarter of a century. However, people are still talking about sustainability, which is good, but it's not the only thing that we should be talking about, and that's the essence of the presentation. Now, we as Robert have spoken that we have a warning flag, that we talk about sustainability, and European countries are supposed to be, or European cities are supposed to be pioneering the sustainability, but they are not sustainable at all, because the more income you have, the more vehicle ownership they have. They have 50% of people have got access to the cars, and not only that they have access to cars in terms of ownership, but they also have a very high utilization of the cars. As mentioned in Robert, 82% of the trips are done by cars. So really, this is not a sustainable transport system at all. Despite that European cities, of course, we have other aspects that show sustainability, but the most strategic aspect, which is using cars, which is having cars and using cars, they are most of these countries, because of the high income, is not top in the agenda in terms of that. So let me just go to the core of my presentation, and the core concepts and the core ideas of my presentation is that throughout my professional life in the transport sector in different countries in the world, I came through different buzzwords that has been used in different times, in different municipalities, in different cities, in different countries. And when I looked at all of these buzzwords, I looked at them that they are being used in a piecemeal approach. They are not integrated together. So sometimes you go to a conference, they talk about smart transport. Sometimes you go to a municipality and you try helping them. They talk, we want to create a customer-centered transport. Sometimes you go to talk to a colleague of yours, he goes and tells you we need a multimodal transport system. Sometimes you do work for the European Bank, and then they say to you, we are going to give loans to this country, but we need to have an inclusive transport system. So really, all of these terminologies seems to be very important, but they are used separately. They are not used together. So when I looked at all of them, I thought, oh my God, this is what we need. We don't need to have a sustainable transport system. We need to have what we call a complete mature transport system. And when I say complete mature, is something very important, because you can have a complete transport system, but it is not mature. And what I mean by that is that you have a complete transport system in terms of the components, the physical components, the service components, the municipalities are there, the organizational structure are there. So this is complete. It could be a complete transport system. But is it mature? It cannot be mature except if it is complete and can attain all of these characteristics that I'm going to talk about. So in order to be mature, you have to be complete, but not vice versa. And in order to be complete and mature transport system, you have to be multimodal, you have to be integrated, you have to be intelligent, creative, inclusive, livable, smart, seamless, sustainable, and customer-centered. Now, as you can see, that sustainability is part of this components. It is very important part, but it is not the only part. All of these terminologies and all of these characteristics have to be there in order to really and properly have your baby, i.e. the transport system as a baby, to be mature. It's becoming an adult. It's becoming young and mature, and it's in its best characteristics is when it has all of this embedded in it. Now, I just want to remind you, what do I mean by all of these things very quickly. I know that most of you know them, but I found out during my interaction in my professional life is that sometimes even we as professionals, we mix between the terminology sometimes. And I really wanted to clarify that terminology very quickly. Multimodality meaning using several modes to reach from origin to destination. So using your walking, using your cycling, using your buses or car. If you use different modes to reach your from origin to destination and probably in the work trip, that's multimodality. Integration in the transport system means you have an integrated integration in laws, integration in fare system, integration in selection of stations and supporting facilities, integration in planning, integration in information system. So if all of these things, which are what I call the soft side of the transport system, the legal, the fare, the information system, all of these things that are supportive and that are enablers to the transport system, in addition, of course, to things even like physical transport system assets, should be integrated and should be unified together. And that's what we mean by integration of the transport system. Then you have to have an intelligent transport system. And of course, all of us knows what's intelligent transport system. An intelligent transport system is a transport system that uses the technology that has been for ages with us, GPS, infrared, GIS, satellite images, whatever you want to call it. All of this is an intelligent transport system if you use all of this to have an intelligent transport system. Then, the new thing now that is happening is that people are looking to innovative and inventive transport systems. And I think that the 4 or 5 main innovations that came, the most important two is the autonomous and self-driving, of course, and the other one is the electric. And now, of course, maybe the maglev, of course, is one of the things I also consider, despite that people may disagree with me, but in the developing countries, the BRT, the bus rapid transit, is an innovative type of transport mode. Of course, the capsule, the personalized, may be something that we are going to look in the future in terms of the COVID and in terms of health, the implication of the transport systems. So all of these are type of innovations that I try to bring, but there are so many innovations in terms of planning tools. There is innovation in terms of business models that can be used. There is innovation in terms of services. So all of these are innovative methods or innovative services, innovative infrastructure, innovative planning tools, innovative business models. All of this can bring innovation. And of course, innovation is different than intelligent. Innovation is something new, not using the current systems, or even trying to upgrade something that already exists. Another two very important things or characteristics I wanted to talk about is inclusiveness and livability. Of course, inclusiveness is where we need to plan and to design and to put our policies and to put our infrastructure and our services to be accommodating to all the sectors of the population, whether they are male or female, old or young, elderly, children, handicapped. All of this is the inclusive transport system. In addition, we need to have a livable transport system. I think that Robert has done a good job in terms of showing us 3 examples of livable transport systems in Germany and in Spain, I think. And these are some pictures to show you that a livable transport system is a system where it is where the transport system is living with the human beings, and not that the transport system is imposed on the human being. So it is really a part of the human being daily living, and not threatening the human being daily living, but rather supporting it and giving them a pleasant atmosphere of living. And of course, you can see some of the pictures where the pedestrians are mixed with the public transport, where you have also cafes on the sidewalk and all that stuff. Then you have the smart and the seamless transport system as well. The smart is basically, and I quote this innovative transportation index, is although this word is innovative, I don't agree with it, because I believe that the smart transport system is really anything related to mobile applications. So we always talk about our smart mobiles and all this stuff, and we always talk about our smartphones. And I think that anything related to a mobile transport application is something that I call it to be a smart transport system, where we are all having all smartphones in our hands, and we need to utilize these smartphones to make our life easier in using the transport system. And this is where the mobile applications comes, like for example, journey finding, Uber applications, or similar applications like Uber. So there are many ways of having applications in the mobile that can facilitate the transport system and our utilization and our interaction with the transport system. Then you have the seamless transport system, which is basically when you move from one mode to another, you need to feel the same type of journey experience. So it is not very good if you start riding a bus, and then you get out of the bus and you ride the metro for the second part of the journey, and then you feel that the services are substandard. So there's a difference between the two types of services. And that's what we call seamless transport system, whereby we have to guarantee that the multimodality is seamless. So basically, when you use several modes, these modes, they provide you with a similar level of services to a certain extent. So you do not feel that there's a difference in this. And the last thing, as we all said, and this is another slide developed by myself for the sustainability. I think that the sustainability is basically not only the 4 corners, but it is really 6 E's, 3 S's, and 3 A's, which is basically the economy, the efficiency, the equity, the energy, the environment, the ecology, social and safety and security, and affordability, availability, and acceptability. So all of this is also can be under the umbrella of sustainability. However, as I said, and I emphasize another time, that I do not consider sustainability to be the target for us. What I consider to be the target is all the previous characteristics that I mentioned, inclusive of the sustainability and the components in the sustainability itself. Now, the last one is the customer-centered, which is really a very important thing. And as much as I talk about the customer-centered, I try to also, in this slide, to in a pictorial fashion, to summarize, is that a complete and mature transport system should be multimodal, should be integrated, should be intelligent, innovative, and smart, seamless, sustainable, of course, livable, and livable as well is important here. But the last three pictures here, which is the very much heartly picture to me, is that when I was in Dubai, of course, we always talked at the beginning about customer satisfaction, but then in Dubai they have customer happiness, and that's very important. And they have even one road called the Happiness Road, or Tariq al-Saada. Now, what I see is that what we should be going forward is that we should be developing the transport system to bring not only satisfaction and happiness to the customers, but even to bring joy and pleasure to the customer. And this could be attained. I mean, the transport system is part of life. You know, you can go to a restaurant to take your dinner, and you can be satisfied of the food. And sometimes the food is so great that it makes you happy. But sometimes the food is so great, it makes you very pleasurable. The same thing happens with the transport system. How can we provide a transport system to the customers and to the end user that makes them feel joyful and not just satisfied, that makes them feel even pleasurable? And if anybody wants to ask me a question of, give me an example, I will give you an example of a pleasurable journey of mine, 388 Emirates Airlines business class. It was something very enjoyable from Dubai to Brisbane. It was a great journey, and it was really a pleasurable journey. I cannot even say that it is a satisfactory or it is a happy journey. No, it was joyful and pleasurable journey. Now, how to attain such things? I mean, you've got to have different strategies and policies. I mean, this is the classical strategies and policies that you should be looking at. Is that, of course, in many countries, as I said, they do not have even the complete transport system. Mind you, what I'm talking about is the mature transport system. So you have to complete your transport system first by adding new networks and capacity, whether it's infrastructure or services, by having the proper traffic management and control, but also by not forgetting whatsoever is that these supply-based strategies have been proven in Europe not to be long-term in Europe and the US, but really short-term. And the long-term vision is to have travel demand management strategies and policies and land-use management. This is just an umbrella to do some kind of road mapping. But really, what we need to do here is also we need to be very careful when we plan. Is that because we need, at the end of the day, customer satisfaction and customer happiness and livability and all that stuff. You need to plan for the people and not for the cars. So you need to inverse the pyramid, like University of Twente 2016 slide shows, that you need to have at your high priority is the people and the pedestrians, and the low priority is to plan for the cars. I think also the examples given by Robert shows this very well. So we need this to really be happening in most of our cities and most of our countries in order to give this kind of also policy, planning, design, and implementation on the ground of all the things that can help us to reach a complete and mature transport system with all the characteristics that I mentioned before. We need, of course, to push people from using the cars to using public transport and the like, and of course cycling and pedestrianization. I really have a passion.
Two more minutes. You have 2 more minutes, please.
Okay. I really have a passion to BRT systems, and I think that BRT systems are very important in the developing world, and they give you a lot of capacity that with the minimum cost in terms of implementation cost or even maintenance cost. So I really recommend that is an innovative and I think innovative idea going in, especially in developing cities, is to use the BRT, which is very less costly than using LRTs or metros or things like that. Now, in order to demonstrate my presentation, I did some time ago in 2017, when I developed these ideas, I did a maturity index and a transport maturity index, and I tried to measure this. So what did I try to measure? I tried to measure all of these components. If you can see, these are the components of maturity, but these are the components of completeness. So you need to have a complete and mature. So the completeness is when you have the proper infrastructure, you place the depots, the multi-ITS infrastructure, the park and ride, the bus rapid transit, the metros, all of these ITS modes, all of this has to be there somehow. So this is what we call the hardware. And you need also to have the organization, the proper organizational structure, the proper municipalities, the proper people who are trained, the planners, the designers, the infrastructure engineers, the plans that are there, the database, the decision support system. So you need to have all, and you need to have, of course, the regulations and the fares policies and the supply service levels in place. With all of that, then you've got a complete transport system. But for that system to be mature, it has to have all of the components that I talked about of integration and multimodality. So in order to say that a transport system is mature, I had to assess all of these things. And I did this assessment for the city of Dubai. And before I did the assessment, I wanted to create what we call a maturity index. So of course, you know that this is a classic S-shaped curve, and the S-shaped curve is a very good way of representation of something that grows and then it reaches saturation level, and either it stagnates at that saturation level, or even it can go beyond, or it can depreciate. And really what we are talking now is that across time, if we have a transport system, it starts by being an infancy. It's like us when we are children, we are born. Then with the infancy, it starts its initiation, then it goes to gross and partial maturity, then you have full maturity, and you have beyond. And I'm giving each one of these S-shaped curve a level. And if I assess a city, any city in the world, it can go from 1 to 5. So I'll show you how I assess the city of Dubai through these components and through this curve as well. That is the assessment table. I will not talk about how I got the numbers, but really that's a matrix of assessment. We're going got here the different components that you need to assess. So this is a matrix where you got the maturity components here, and here the criteria for assessing the maturity components, and you start putting these numbers in accordance, of course, with different ways and methods, either through data gathering, through expert meetings, through expert knowledge, and then at the end of the day, there is an equation, weighted average equation, that brings you the maturity index to a certain level. And this I use actually to the city in Dubai, and it's a published paper, and you can go, it's downloadable. And as you can see, we have assessed all of this, whether they are present or not. Some of these things are present. If they are present, then they are assessed whether they satisfy this criteria or not. If they are not present, then you have sometimes zeros. Like, for example, in Dubai, the bus rapid transit is not existing, but they have the metro, of course. They have others that are existing. So all of existing components were assessed. Non-existing components, they are not there. So that means that the system is not complete in one aspect. But if it is complete in other aspect, then this aspect is being assessed, and then this is weighted, and all of this weightage come together, and it gives you a mark, and that mark goes on the curve, and according to the mark on the curve, you determine the city where it is exactly in terms of maturity of the transport system. By that, I thank you for Zina, and I thank the audience, and I look forward to the questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was very good overview. Especially, it was good to hear the academic point of view. So thank you very much for your presentation. I have a question for you. I would like to ask you about the maturity index and how is it applicable in your case?
Yeah, I mean, the maturity index, I wish I can apply it in more cities in the world because I was able to apply it in Dubai because I was the expert of public transport in Dubai for about 3 years, and I used to work there before. So 6 years of my life I spent there. I think it was pretty well assessed. I wish there is a project whereby there is different cities in the world that we can have experts together, we can have more data, and we can compare. And I actually presented this also in Turkey in IATT, and they wanted to get this tool in Turkey for IATT. So really, there are people who are thinking of using such tools. There are many indicators that are across the world, but I think that this is a very comprehensive one. And if it was adopted and if it was used in different cities in the world in comparison, it would be very nice to know whether your city has a complete and mature transport system or not compared to other cities.
Wonderful. So now we move to the best part of our session today. I see Dr. Gharib having more double espresso, so he's on fire. Now I would like to present our last but not least panelist who will be joining us in the panel, Youssef Al-Hansali. I hope you had your coffee and you're ready to basically share with us your experience in the Middle East. Youssef is the CEO of Vytronic in UAE. He's also the managing director of Vytronic in Saudi Arabia. He joined Vytronic in 2003 and is working as a student until he obtained his master's degree in electrical and electronic engineering. In 2009, Youssef founded the Vytronic subsidiary in Dubai and continues to serve as the CEO today. In his role, he established Vytronic as one of the largest traffic technology suppliers in the Middle East and Africa. So now I'm joined with a fantastic panel of lovely speakers. We heard from Dr. Atif Gharib, we heard from Robert Yan, we heard from Dr. Khalid Abbas. We're gonna hear now from Youssef Al-Hansali. I have a lot of questions. So let me start with, I'll start with Youssef. So I hope you're ready, Youssef.
Okay.
Wonderful. How's the weather in Dubai?
Great, just great.
That's what we miss here in the UK, a great weather. Yes. So, Youssef, I have a question from Christoph Wilton. How to encourage people to use public transport during the pandemic? So the public transport has lost over 35% of passengers, for example, in Poland, because most people are using their cars or are working from home. So how are you doing it in Dubai?
In Dubai, we were very well prepared. So it was a tough time at the beginning. So we learned how to deal with the situation. And after people reached some kind of maturity, we just start using the public transport, of course, by respecting all the measures made by the government. So everything under control, definitely, yeah.
Wonderful, great to hear that. Dr. Gharib, are you ready for the question?
Yes.
Wonderful.
I had my coffee, so.
Yeah, I can see you. I mean,
it's a long day. You start at 5 o'clock in the morning, and now it's almost 6:30. So.
Okay, wonderful, great. So I have a question from Elizabeth Krebs. There are both stark differences and similarities, the infrastructure and population in Kigali, Rwanda, it seems, with Abu Dhabi. So Elizabeth would like to know more about how Tatweer is approaching the evaluation needed to customize your product for Rwanda, and especially development of AI in different contexts.
This is a very good question, and very, it's a good in time as well. Actually, we started doing a similar project in Rwanda nowadays. We started by end of last year, and we are doing exactly almost the same with more advanced as well. Stage 1 of the project started, more devices to collect the data. We are building now the center, the Safe City Center. We are building the new Salama platform for Rwanda as well. We are collecting the data. We are conducting the safety study. Collect all data, all required data. We are doing the safety study. And most likely by the end of the year, we will be done with phase 1. So you will see almost the same improvement very soon in Rwanda, in Kigali. Not only Kigali, it's Rwanda as well.
Okay, thank you. Robert, are you ready?
Yes, of course.
You don't need your coffee. You're always ready, Robert. Robert, how to convince people to close city center for private vehicles? How can you do that?
It depends a little bit of the city, but especially also smaller cities, but as well larger cities. People live in the city. It's not with Frankfurt, but other cities, for example, it is like this. So the people living in the city center are very happy as long as they have the ability to use other means of transport, or as long as they have the ability of some delivery services which help them to get their stuff from buying something to their home. So I think it's what it needs is the brave of the authorities and the politicians to start with such a project. We have several projects in the Netherlands or also in Hamburg, and I think now as well in Munich, where the project team talks to a city, to a street, for example, where a lot of people are living, and they ask them if they would agree to have no cars in their street for 3 months, for example. And they provide them a parking space somewhere outside. And they put green stuff there, so trees and banks to sit, also some furniture to sit there and talk and so on. And after 3 months, a lot of people come back and say, okay, I could imagine not to have a car anymore. And it was really nice to live in the street without this daily traffic, and to live in the street where children are playing and all this stuff. So I think the people are much more open, and to introduce such a project, you could start with, in German we say Reallabor, something's a laboratory in reality, and these are such things how you could start to let the people feel and enjoy and make the experience how it could work.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you. Dr. Khaled, you speak about complete and mature transport system. You talk about multimodality. And I didn't hear you talking about climate change.
I mean, climate change is part of the environment, so it's part of the sustainability components. So it's covered. The word sustainability covers a lot of things. It's just that the other concepts is not well taken in the concept of sustainability, and that's the whole essence of the presentation, is to show that it's not enough to have a sustainable transport system, but you have to have the other things. Climate change is definitely covered in the sustainability component.
Thank you, Dr. Khaled. Dr. Gharib?
Yes.
Are you ready? Good. So I have a question here from my good friend, Joseph Sacco, from Moving Forward Consulting in Bonn, Germany. How are you, Joseph? So Joseph's question is, have you analyzed the social economic effect and compared it to the investment cost?
The answer is yes. What we did, there was a study done in Abu Dhabi to estimate the cost of crashes and the cost of each and every fatality and serious injury, and this done in 2009. And there was a study conducted by the TRB, the Transportation Research Board, in 2017, where it defines the cost of each fatality, how much it costs in two parts, the human capital cost and the other social impact cost. One fatality, according to the TRB study, cost 21 million dirham. According to our study in 2009, one fatality cost 7.5 million dirham. If we multiply any of those figures by the value of the reduction in number of fatality, which is almost in those number of years, and it's 252, you will, the result will come up with almost more than 2 billion or something, more than 2 billion dirham. The cost of the project was almost 700 million dirham. So the benefit exceeds the cost in very far. The difference between the benefit and cost for one fatality only, if we consider the reduction in crashes, property damage, serious injury, all these things has value as well, and the studies define this. So the benefit and the reduction will come huge. So it's really very beneficial, very cost benefit, very benefit cost value, very huge. And this is fact. This number talks.
Wonderful.
If you consider only the fatality part, it covered much 4 or 5 times the value. So we did.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Gharib. I have a question to Youssef. I have a question from Sadiqa Salman from the UK. So Sadiqa looks like she wants to move to Dubai. So she's asking, how can you make public transport more used and convenient in hot weather like Dubai and Abu Dhabi? So I'm guessing it's the same weather. So Youssef, you can take that question.
By the way, so hot weather in the Middle East, it's standard, but we used to live with it, and after some times you don't feel it at all, because every location is almost with climate automation, and how to make it attractive is to make it very cheap, and the public transport in Dubai is really very cheap for all users, of course.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you. Question to Dr. Khaled. What is the status of autonomous driving in the Middle East, and is level 4 autonomy realistic for the near future?
Well, I mean, autonomous driving is not, when you're talking about the Middle East, you have to separate between the GCC countries and between the rest of the countries. So you have to separate between those countries that are rich and probably advanced, like Dubai. Of course, they have a very ambitious program of automated driving. But in other countries, they are struggling not with automated driving, but they are struggling with electrical vehicles rather than automated driving. So I would say that it's a level of maturity as well, if we can talk about it in such a way, is that for sure in Dubai, they talk about autonomous vehicles. And also, let me just remind you that this is something very important, that there is a very high opportunity and potential for automated driving in many of our countries in the Middle East and also countries in Africa through adopting public transport systems like the BRT, where you've got dedicated lanes for the buses. And that's a very easy way of doing autonomous driving. I think that this should be the startup for this autonomous technology to come into the Middle East and to hit 2 birds with 1 stone, to have real good public transport system that is highly economic and give you the capacity that is needed, but also to have autonomous driving. Turkey could be a very good country as well, in Istanbul, because they have a very good BRT system that can adopt autonomous driving very easily, and they've got the technology as well to do it.
Thank you, Dr. Khaled. Robert, we have a question for you. It's actually the same question, so I feel like you would like to answer, so go ahead, please.
Yeah, I would like to support Dr. Khalid because especially if you have to start with, it's level 4. And that means not the individual motorized transport, it's the public transport. And this can really support the whole transport system. because the costs could come down. So at the beginning, you will have a higher costs for the implementation, but then you could provide a better service, and you could provide with less costs, because the costs are with the driver, especially in Europe. I don't know how it is in the Middle East, but in Europe, the costs are with the driver. And if you have a better service by higher frequency, then it could support the whole process. So I think, and if you have the chance to have your own lane, then you can really start quite soon. It's more a question of the legislation than a question of the implementation. It's not anymore, in this case, it's not the technical question.
Thank you, Robert. I have another question for you, Robert, since we're still with you in Europe. So I have a question from an audience based in Berlin. And the question is about discussing increasing parking fees substantially. I love that. What do you think about this approach, or city tolling to limit cars in the cities?
City tolling is perfect. I like tolling. No, sometimes my wife is.
A lot of people from the tolling industry in the audience, so that's good.
Yeah, that's because I worked a lot with tolling systems. But however, I think this is an approach, and most municipalities are a little bit afraid to increase the costs for parking or to introduce a tolling scheme. The possibility is to start with, to take the people with you, because what you want is a change of behavior, is that you make a negative tolling approach. There we have several studies as well from the Netherlands. That means if you behave in the right way, you're cycling, or you're walking, or you're taking public transport, you get something. For example, points to go to buy public transport tickets, or you get for free tickets for the cinema or something like this. Then people become used to use other means of transport than their own car, and this would support it a lot. Unfortunately, up to now, we have only a few discussions, and what is in Germany especially missing is a legal framework on the level of the federal on the federal level, which allows the cities to introduce such means of regulatory means. Yes.
Thank you, Robert. Dr. Gharib, I remember I was in Abu Dhabi when people woke up and found the pavement with different color and different parking fees. As much as the kind of shocking, but I think sometimes the government have to do it this way, especially when it comes to illegal parking and when it comes to kind of basically discouraging people from using their cars. What are the basically measures taken in Abu Dhabi in order to reduce the use of cars? So it's basically the same question I gave to Robert when it comes to congestion charging. What are you doing in Abu Dhabi? And when it comes to the parking fees, increasing parking fees?
I don't know if, when was the last time you visit Abu Dhabi, but nowadays to get into Abu Dhabi Island, for example, you have to pay toll on all bridges. Abu Dhabi is connected to the mainland with 4 bridges. All bridges now has a toll station, and you have to pay toll between 7 o'clock in the morning and 9 o'clock, and between 5 o'clock in the evening to 7 o'clock. Also, the parking, they are expanding the parking program to cover more spaces in Abu Dhabi. And, for a social reason, they did not increase the parking fee. But there is a plan for this to limit traffic congestion in downtown.
Okay,
so we are doing the same. Tolling is working fine in this region. And you know that we are a car-oriented society, so the use of the car is huge. So we don't have a mature, 100% mature transport system based on Dr. Khalid's definition. So it's.
Okay, fantastic. So I'll pass the same question to Yusuf. What about tolling? I mean, I know you have Salik, and yeah, what are your views when it comes to discouraging people from using the car and shifting to the public transport use? What are the measures taken by Dubai RTA?
They increase the network of the tolling systems, and it makes really the traffic much better and flower.
Okay, fantastic. Great. So the same question goes to Dr. Khaled. What's going on in Egypt when it comes to reducing the use of car? What are the measures taken by the government in terms of parking fees and in terms of tolling and congestion charging in Cairo?
Yeah, this is a difficult question to answer, because if you are an outsider, you will see that there is dramatic and intense work of road building and bridges in Egypt, which could seem that this is encouraging the use of private car. But however, this reminds me of what I said, that you have to have first the complete transport system. So Egypt has been suffering for a long time from lack of transport infrastructure, the basic transport infrastructure. So basically, from an educated point of view, you find that many of this infrastructure would have had to be in place several years ago. But now, if you look at it from a planning point of view, you will say, why are the government investing in road and bridges infrastructure and not in public transport? But additionally, the government is investing in public transport. So we have 2 monorails coming, and we have an LRT coming, and we have the 4th line of the metro. And additionally, we are also discouraging or trying to collect fees for using the roads. So we have some, I call it, don't want to call it road tolling, I call it road pricing, because you have at premium roads, they have toll stations like Cairo Suez Road after it has been fully developed. So they are trying to take that money probably and to help the transport system to reboost it another time. So we are a society where we have a mixture of different components happening together. Some of them are to get the transport system in its feet to be complete. Some of them is also to get it in certain aspects of maturity in terms of the public transport and in terms of the tolling. So I think, yes, we are doing to a certain extent a massive transport infrastructure system. And I always say it's better to have something than to have nothing, you know. So at one stage, the transport system has been in Egypt not very much, did not have a lot of attention, but now it's the core and attention is on the transport system for sure.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Khaled. A question for you, Robert. Proposals for accounting systems for city tolling. Some people are looking for that. What do you think?
For an accounting system?
Mm-hmm.
What do they mean with an accounting system? This is a little bit, yeah, which type of system, or there are different possibilities. What we have to distinguish is if we are talking about a truck tolling system or a light vehicle system. In case of light vehicles, we have, I think, to go for smartphones or cell phones, because the main issue is the distribution of onboard units. And that's why you will have in the architecture a central place to capture the fee or to capture the toll. And the light vehicle will provide, the smartphone will provide the geoposition data. I hope this is an answer, but I would ask, what do you mean with accounting?
Okay, now that's really good. Thank you very much, Robert. I now have questions for all the speakers. This is the last question. So I will leave the last person to answer, Yusuf, because I know, Yusuf, you have the last word, and then you'll be followed by Michael. So let me start with Dr. Gharib. The question is, how do you envision the future of traffic in your city?
Oh, this question need a full day.
No, we don't have full day. Just to let you know. You have 40 seconds.
Actually, there is more efforts toward a personal transportation, like scooter, like bike, like more infrastructure is being built for bike, for pedestrian, for scooter. We are building, or we are developing very soon, the MaaS, the mobility as a service platforms, more public transport being added, more buses. We stopped the light rail and the metro because of the capacity issue and the economic issue, but there is more effort towards personal transportation, as I mentioned, bike and scooter, and also there is a move toward automation, or at least connected vehicles, and some level of automation as well. There is some experiment is being done through the car manufacturer in the city. So there is a lot of thought on this, and I believe it's balanced thought between encouraging or managing the traditional traffic we have, and introducing new means of transportation and encouraging people to use. We were talking with Etihad Airlines to have a platform to make the trip from overseas till home very simple, very easy through an application and a platform. So there is a lot of things going on, and I think transport indicators or traffic or transport indicator is getting better day by day.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ghalib. Robert, how do you envision the future of traffic in your city?
Oh, it's. I can a little bit tell how I would feel in such a city. So I'm in my quarter, and there. The streets, we can see no parked cars. We are free. Children are playing on the street. In the morning, I go out of my house looking for the next kiosk to take my newspaper, going into a cafe to get my first espresso and having a croissant. Meeting on my way people with their dog, which I know because we are closer together in our neighborhood. We're chatting together. And then I'm going home because I think then I'm quite old and I'm in not working anymore. So for money, in a different way, writing books or doing something like this. And then if I have to have a longer trip, then I will take my Brompton bicycle, go some 100 meters and then I find a public transport where I can take it and go with it and go to the train and making a longer trip. And then there I take my bicycle again and go on. So it's multimodal, but it's a transport mean or a type of transport which is where the people are in the focus, like Dr. Ghalib said, and not the system. And this is something which I'm very keen on.
Thank you very much, Robert. And I really hope this is the future of transport. Dr. Khalid, how do you envision the future of traffic in Cairo?
I could not have said it better than Robert, to be honest with you. And I would say two things. Strategically, my presentation is what I think it should be, but that's a very utopian. But if I would to select one basic ingredients that favors to my mind is exactly what Robert said, is a livable streets in Cairo, and livable streets in New Cairo, and livable streets in many Middle Eastern countries, like the old cities that we had, is where actually you feel that the transport system is a friendly component to your everyday life, rather than a hostile component to your everyday life.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Moving to Youssef, how do you envision the future of traffic in Dubai? And let's not start with Hyperloop and flying taxis and all fancy things. So over to you, Youssef, and then we're going to end with you. So I look forward to hear your answer to this question, also your last word, and then we will move to Michael to end the event. Youssef.
Okay, I will just give an overview about the whole region here. the urban mobility in the Middle East plays a key role in achieving economic competitiveness and employment and sustainable growth. However, many of the negative effects of transport, such as congestions, road accidents, or pollution, occur mainly in urban areas. In my opinion, the future of mobility will mainly deal with two major challenges. The first is how to help to stop climate change, and the second, how to stop and end this bloodbath and massacres happening every day on our roads. Every single day, if you can imagine, more than 3,000 innocent people are just losing their lives worldwide on road crashes. It is equivalent to 8 Boeing 777 with full passengers crashing down with 0 survivors. And this is happening day after day after day. Also, the greenhouse gas emissions is considered as the primary driver of climate change, which becomes really an existential threat to our civilization. We need to take it really seriously. Fortunately, today we have the possibility to save those lives and the nature by using smart technology and by building smart and sustainable mobility ecosystems. So the Middle East may have been a little bit late to urbanization compared to Europe or some other areas in the world. But this has provided a unique opportunity to shape the urban mobility strategy in the Middle East. So here I must emphasize that mobility revolution is underway in the region, and the GCC countries in particular are in the first row of this smart urban mobility race. So let's take Dubai. Dubai is always racing against the future. We see it in Arabic. So as an example, the government has set a tough target for 25% of all trips to be made by autonomous modes by 2030. This is tomorrow. And let's turn to the next example, Abu Dhabi, a green city called Masdar City. So it has already a self-driving shuttle service fully operational. If we move to Saudi Arabia, Riyadh, as one of the fast-growing cities in the Middle East, has already invested in a multi-million-dollar artificial intelligence-based signaling project, which has a very, very positive impact on traffic management and improved human life. So again, so you certainly heard about the Saudi NEOM megacity project. It seems to be the most environment-friendly and technologically advanced mobility ecosystem in the world. Also, Muscat has already implemented a smart road technology to manage traffic and to achieve leadership targets in an accelerated way. So the numbers are really impressive. So today we are already witnessing the impressive impact of those strategies as confirmed by Dr. Atif in Abu Dhabi. Fatalities are declining year after year, and many environment initiatives are ongoing. So in short, we are just moving to a better world, clean and safe. In other words, we are just preparing a better tomorrow for our children and for the next generations. Thank you so much from my side.
Thank you very much, Youssef. I really like your positive attitude and this very promising end note. I would like now pass to Michael Landecker to end for the final thoughts and final note of this event. Just want to remind you all that we will have a white paper produced following this event, expected to be basically published in a month's time. Over to you, Michael.
Thank you, Zeina. I have now the almost impossible task to summarize all these presentations. I think you all did a very excellent job, and all these presentations contained a lot of structure and ideas. But nevertheless, I will try to give a summary and to point out the most important highlights. And please forgive if I miss something. At first, Dr. Atif, I think the target and one of the leading questions of the webinar was to understand best practice. And the simple answer to what is a successful project is look at the project in Abu Dhabi from Tatweer. And the reason why I would like to explain why I think this is a project which is really a good example for a best practice project. At first, there was a clear vision of the government at the beginning. There was a clear problem. These were the rising fatal accidents in Abu Dhabi in the years 2007, 2008, 2009. So there was a clear problem and there was a clear government decision. There was strong leadership and there was a clear goal to come to Vision Zero, so to zero fatalities in Abu Dhabi. So this, I think, was one point. And then a second point, which I think is often underestimated, which is the organization which has been created. Tatweer is a kind of, I understand, public-private partnership model, and institution which can run a project is very important for the success of the project, because projects don't implement themselves. There must be a strong institution to do so. So I think this was a very important point. Another point which I would highlight is the evaluation you did. So you didn't start immediately by putting system on the road. You're starting by doing careful analysis. And I think this intelligence in preparing a project, this is a very important prerequisite. Another point, it was not a project what you did a program which was consisting of a lot of different sub-projects. So, for example, there was this automated driver testing. There were these multi-functional enforcement systems which you install on the road. So these were very creative ideas and very, very new ideas. And I think this is part of the success story. Putting all this together, after all, we all do these projects to achieve our goals. And the most important goal in this project was to reduce fatal accidents, to go in direction of Vision Zero. And I noted that you had a decrease until recently in fatal accidents. So decrease in deadly accidents in Abu Dhabi by -58%. This is a very impressive figure. And this shows that the program, the project has worked. Another figure which I found interesting, it was I think 75% decrease in accidents of pedestrians. This is even more, and this is an often underestimated thing, the protection of pedestrians. So again, a very nice achievement. So I think this is a best practice project by all means. Still, I would like to finally quote one of your statements, which I found very nice. You said technology brings a quick solution, but education brings the long-term success. And I think that's absolutely a relevant statement. In the long run, you have to talk to people, you have to communicate to people, you have to educate people, and this brings you a long-term success. So far to Dr. Atif's presentation, Robert. Robert, you had one of the most challenging tasks here today. Your job was to cover a whole continent, and a very diverse continent, so the European continent. And I think you did this in a very, very nicely manner. And my takeaway from your presentations at first, this big challenge and this big task, what the Europeans see, this is the transformation of mobility. So the feeling in Europe is we are on the edge of something new, of something different, and we have to change our way of mobility. And obviously the driver behind is the climate crisis and the CO2 emission. However, I think this is a very European topic, and thank you for putting this on top. Thank you as well for introducing to us this idea of the importance of the city level. The problems are local, pollution problems, noise problems, traffic jams, this is all local, so within cities. And your your concept of seeing cities and mayors of cities and city governments as driver for change, I think this is a very valid concept, and this is very inspiring. And you mentioned three very, and this is obviously corresponding, you mentioned three very interesting concepts, which were the super blocks in Barcelona, so a kind of neighborhood concept to reduce traffic. You presented the 15 minutes city concept from Paris, as well a concept to improve traffic situation on a rather low regional level of a neighborhood. And the same you mentioned for Berlin, the Kiez block, which is a similar concept. So thank you for this very inspiring presentation, Robert. Coming to Dr. Khalid, I think your presentation, Dr. Khalid, was very fascinating, and you have shown and demonstrated to us why it is important to have the academic view in such a seminar or in such a discussion, because you're giving a broader concept and a broader view on it. And my key takeaway from your presentation is sustainability is not the target in itself. And I appreciate very much how you integrate this concept of sustainability in a broader concept, which you call maturity. And part of this maturity is, for example, I noted this, the multimodal aspect, the inclusiveness, the seamless coverage over different journeys, the livability of the city. So this is, I think, a very valid concept, and I think it's an important statement when it comes to this more practical project to see the whole picture. What I found was that there were a lot of similarities in your statement. And one thing, what you said, Dr. Khalid, is this concept of maturity. And this reminded me very much of the concept, what was mentioned by Robert, this holistic view on city mobility projects, where you have to include a lot of different aspects. And at the end of the day, that what Dr. Atif did and does until today in Abu Dhabi is an integrated concept with a very holistic approach to traffic safety and traffic enforcement. So I felt there is, although you're coming from very different angles, from very different countries, and you have a very different view on things, I found very, very remarkable this level of convergence, which I saw between your view of things. When it comes to the future trends, I think one common denominator is automated driving in combination with public transport. So, Dr. Khalid, you mentioned that the key topic from Egyptian point of view is rather e-mobility, but automated driving plays as well a role when it comes to the bus and rail system. So it's a complementary technology. Robert, you mentioned this as well, and Dr. Atif, and I think you highlighted this as well. So I think this is a common denominator. Another common point is the tolling aspect. So mobility pricing is a tool of regulating traffic and in particular city access. And what is a further point was the concept of mobility as a service. So MaaS, I think, is a common topic as well for all of us. One of the highlights, I think, was the part at the end about the visions you all have. I found this very inspiring. And again, I felt convergence between your ideas. And Dr. Khalid, you said this when you were. It was up to you to describe your vision. You said that you felt very much that Robert described already your vision of the future transport. So once again, I would like to thank all of you for the presentations and for the wonderful input. And I would like to thank the audience, which unfortunately we could not view but we felt the attention of the audience. We received a lot of questions, and yes, thank you for your support and for your interest in this webinar. There will be a follow-up. We will prepare a white paper about the results of today's webinar, and going beyond the webinar, what are the future trends of mobility in Europe and the Middle East. So these topics will be covered by the white paper. It is available on request via the email office-berlin@vitronic.com. And via this email address, you can as well access the presentations of our speakers. So once again, thank you for your attention. I wish all of you a nice evening and a very, very good rest of the week. Thank you very much.